Namaste, Nam, Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva Manusandadami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim. Oh, Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Arjuna. Ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O goddess, contained in the 18 chapters and showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of Advaita non-dualism. O my affectionate mother, destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Now, Krishna Vandana. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devakim Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. O Lord, son of Vasudeva, slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki, O Krishna, supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. And we take up the reading of 62nd verse, the 62nd Shloka of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna about the definition about how a sthitaprajna person behaves and what is his description. And while talking about this person of steady wisdom, Sri Krishna also cautions why this downfall from the position of attaining the state of sthita prajna. Why people, fall short of reaching that destination, which is considered to be the ultimate destination of becoming a sthita prajna, of becoming a man of steady wisdom. And Sri Krishna is now for further cautioning. In the previous verses, Krishna has told that although you may hide yourself from the sense objects, the longing for those objects, longing for those sense objects, it doesn't vanish, it doesn't disappear, it doesn't get destroyed just like that. It only happens when you get that ultimate realization. And in connection with the same topic, now Sri Krishna is further describing that process of the downfall of a person from the path of illumination to getting entangled into the these worldly desires, the desire for enjoying worldly sense objects. So Sri Krishna in the 62nd Shloka tells Arjuna, dhyāyato viṣhayān puṁsaḥ teṣhūpajāyate saṅgāt sañjāyate kāmaḥ kāmāt krodho bhijāyate. Now, this is the just start of the process of how the degradation starts, how the downfall starts, having one's mind attached to the sense objects. Now, Sri Krishna says, dhyāyato. Dhyāyataha is thinking about. Thinking about what? Viṣhayān, of the sense objects, of the objects of the senses, which people think enjoying them will give them such a great pleasure and all that. Thinking constantly about viṣhayān, the sense objects. What happens? Who thinking about the sense objects? Puṁsaḥ. Puṁsaḥ is man. When a person constantly keeps thinking about the sense object, what happens? Now Krishna is actually giving the entire process. It is like a process flow chart. We prepare in our chemical engineering operations, the unit operations, where the entire flow chart, the process is given. Now Sri Krishna is giving this flow chart for the downfall. How a person ends up in the downfall from that path of elimination to wretched life. Dhyāyato viṣhayān puṁsaḥ. A person constantly thinking, constantly brooding over the sense objects. Saṅgah teṣhūpajāyate. Saṅgah is attachment. Constantly thinking about these sense objects, one develops. Upajāyate is arises. Arises what? Saṅgah. In them, the attachment arises. Constantly brooding over, oh that thing, oh that thing, oh that thing. And then arises, then develops the attachment for that object. You are constantly thinking about it. Saṅgāt sañjāyate kāmaḥ. Saṅgāt is again from attachment. Is born, sañjāyate. Again, from attachment is born. What? Kāmaḥ, desire. First, we just keep on looking at a thing. We are not initially so much attached to it. Constantly thinking about it, constantly brooding over it. Slowly, an attachment creeps in our mind. An attachment gets built up, constantly dwelling the mind on that sense object. Saṅgāt sañjāyate kāmaḥ. And then ultimately what happens? The desire has cropped in. The desire has set in for that sense object. And then the next process in that flow chart, Sri Krishna tells, kāmāt krodho bhijāyate. Kāmāt krodha bhijāyate. From the desire, bhijāyate is arises, is born. What? Krodha, anger. From that desire remaining unfulfilled, anger sets in. This is a beautiful description Sri Krishna has. Actually, he has given a clear-cut, the process of how a person starts falling down from the path of elimination. Brooding on the objects of senses, man develops attachment to them. From attachment comes desire, and from desire, anger sprouts forth. Initially, a person is very, so-called pure at heart and no negative thoughts in his mind. He is walking the path of elimination, and then he sees the object of senses, the object for enjoyment, and then he starts continuously thinking about it, constantly brooding about, oh, that's such a wonderful thing, that's such a beautiful thing I have seen. Can I enjoy it? And constantly dwelling over it, slowly the attachment for that, the mind gets fixed to that sense object. It is such a firm attachment. He just cannot leave thinking without it. For a person, that sense object becomes whole and soul purpose to be in this life. Like a person who wants to amass wealth. He sees wealth somewhere, source of wealth somewhere, and then he constantly keeps on thinking about it, and then what happens? Wealth becomes a dominant part of his being, of his thinking, of his mind. And that attachment starts. And when this person is not able to get that wealth, he is not able to get that object, what happens? He starts becoming, the anger sets in. once the desire remains unfulfilled, this is what the learned people, the wise people, the yogis, they keep on telling us about the anger aspect of our personality. Why anger sets in? We have some desires. When those desires remain unfulfilled, when those wishes, we want everything to happen in a certain way. If that doesn't happen, we become angry. If we want to possess something, if that doesn't happen, we lose our temper, we throw tantrums, we become so angry. And this is what exactly Sri Krishna has explained this process. First of all, we casually start thinking on of an object. Casually. First, it is just a casual thinking. And then, constant brooding, constant thinking, dhyāyato. Then our entire thought process is on that particular sense object, on the viṣhayān. Dhyāyato viṣhayān. That dhyāyato, with that constant dwelling, with that constant brooding, we develop attachment for that object. Now that object is not just some XYZ object, no. Now that object is my object. I need to possess that. I need to have that. I need to enjoy that. That becomes obsession then. And then what happens? Then saṅgāt, sañjāyate, kāmaḥ. Now the desire has cropped up. Desire to enjoy that object. At that point of time, we are not bothered about what is going to be the outcome after enjoying that object. Am I going to be happy, or I am going to be the most unhappiest person in this world? Am I going to get pleasure out of it, or am I going to get pain out of it? Am I going to get misery out of it? I am going to be miserable after enjoying that object. That thought is not there. Till then, it is only the thought of enjoying that object. And why this happens, that also Sri Krishna tells us in the next verse. So, in this 62nd verse, Sri Krishna has told us that we become constantly thinking about that object, we start brooding about that object, and then the attachment sets in, and with that attachment, when we are unable to get in that object, when we are unable to enjoy that object, then enters an element of krodho, of the anger that sets in. Now, there is something called as the shat-ripu, or the six passions which delude a person and snatch a person away from self-mastery, from self-illumination, from self-knowledge, from the Brahma-jnana. Shat-ripu. Which are these? Kāmaḥ, krodho. Kāmaḥ is desire. Krodho, and that is what Krishna has actually, explained in this shloka. Having not fulfilled that desire of the sense, or enjoying the sense object, the anger sets in. So kāmaḥ leads to krodho. And next is krodho is anger. So desire, anger, and lobha, attachment. But also Sri Krishna has mentioned here. Lobha, then moha. Moha is again, lobha is actually greed. Greed for enjoying that object. And then we get into moha. We become attached to that object. We become attached to the process of enjoying that object. Kāmaḥ, krodha, lobha, moha. Then we are not there, and then when we are brooding constantly on that object, we start considering that as my object. It belongs to me, and then that mother, that ahankar, that pride, egotism sets in. That is my object. And then when we see somebody else enjoying that object, then sets in the matsara, the sixth ripu, your sixth enemy or the sixth passion. Matsara is jealousy. So from this small, attachment, so from this small desire, from this small element of karma, sets in this entire line of six deadly enemies of a human being. Kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsara. And it results in the downfall of a person. So that is what Sri Krishna has told us about how the brooding over, dwelling the mind over over the sense objects, it deprives us of the serenity of mind. And then he has explained that we develop attachment to that object, and when we are not able to fulfill that desire, when we are not able to enjoy that desire, so-called enjoyment, that is not that having that object in our possession or having done that thing, it is not that we are going to get actually pleasure or happiness or joy or bliss. No, it may not. It may give the contrary results, but we are not bothered because we lose our sense of thinking. Entire thought process is only on how to enjoy that object. And then sets in the element of anger. And then kāmaḥ, krodha bhijāyate. And that's how Sri Krishna is warning us again and again. Be cautious, be aware of this attachment of senses to the sense objects. That is the 62nd shloka of Sankhya Yoga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Shri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Ma. Jai Swami.